radiation forming. They neutralize it, saying, there's no fight. TSA says, we don't grope. We don't grope. None of that's going on. None of that's happening. And then, remember, oh, we're not groping old ladies in the private room. Turns out they are. Oh, there's no radiation from the scanners. We're not searching kids under age 11. Turns out they are. They lie. They lie to you. And again, our article on the subject, we wrote a couple of them, links through to the announcements of the drones for law enforcement and EPA operations. Snapping photos of livestock farms from an airplane is legal and cost-effective way to help protect Nebraska and Iowa streams from runoff contamination, say officials of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. The agency's aerial surveillance program came under scrutiny last week when the Nebraska congressional delegation sent a joint letter to EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson. The elected officials asked Jackson to reply by June 10th to 25 questions, including whether federal law allowed such surveillance. On Friday, EPA officials in the agency's Region 7 office provided written response, and it goes on. And again, they're announcing that all of this, drones are already being used to arrest people on their farms. I mean, what about that? Let's continue right here. Oh, but none of this is happening. Here's another one out of the Washington Post. Reining in the rumor about EPA drones. Yeah, and the NSA, too. They're not spying on you, even though they admit they are. Yeah, let's rein that in. Or the rumor that Google's really NSA, which is now admitted. Or the rumor years ago that Google was stealing people's passcodes with their little mobile trucks, now admitted. Or the rumor. False reports on EPA drones over Midwest farms alarm public. That's another article here out of MidwestDemocracy.com. And they just go on to say none of it's true. There's no drones. Here's another one out of the Los Angeles Times. Lie about EPA spy drone thrives in right-wing blogosphere. I mean, they're announcing 30,000 drones in the Washington Post to surveil everything. I remember articles 5 years ago about spy satellites being used to watch people and farmers in Colorado. I just read the BBC where it's happening in Europe, and they just say it doesn't exist. See, that's the tactic. Roll it out. There's opposition. Oh, we never said that. Did you hear the one about the EPA spy drones that are darkening the skies over America's farms and ranches? And it goes on. No, that is not up for a funny punchline. There really have been reports of drones casting their evil robotic eyes down on the heartland. Hey, guys, type in the article about the drone crashing last week. Wasn't that in Maryland? Or the one in Colorado that almost ran into the passenger jet? I mean, oh, none of that's happening? And they have a graphic here that says, see, they're real. One of them EPA spy drones was hovering right above the barn, and I blasted to kingdom come. The evil man, he's stupid. Drone, that was Grandpa's fancy antique weather vane. She knows best, that idiot with a gun. She'll show him. How's your testosterone level doing? Keep drinking your BPA. They are simply another example of paranoid political lunacy being magnified 1 million times by the blogosphere and Twitter. And it goes on to demonize anybody that covered it or went over it. So again, you heard them. There are no drones. They're not watching you. The EPA is doing nothing. I mean, yeah, they got manned aircraft up there watching you, but that's not a big deal. It's not drones, even though they're arresting people on their farms with them. But hey, what's wrong with that? Cattle buzzed by government flights, but not by drones. Miami Herald. So, see, everything's fine. Go back to sleep. We call this now drone denial. And it just goes on from there. All right, continuing here, ladies and gentlemen. Let me move right along to this little tidbit. This is out of the London Telegraph. Headline, Secret EU Summit document shows first step in banking union. We have it blurb at Infowars.com. Here is the full article. London Telegraph, exclusive. Exclusive, secret EU summit document shows first step to banking union. You can actually pull up our articles where we've called it that. It is a banking coup d'etat, total takeover designed to implode Europe. A classified draft of next week's EU summit conclusions is the first step on an emerging roadmap, that's a quote, to a banking union pooling debt via Eurobonds and political union via EU treaty change over the next 10 years. The text, published exclusively in the Daily Telegraph, is secret, restricted for eyes only of diplomats and officials preparing the 28 and 29 June European Council in Brussels. Most of the text, the annexed compact for growth and jobs, are deals on project bonds and other small-scale EU initiatives at Frans Koos Hollande is trumpeting in his 120 billion euro growth pact. The first, which, of course, would be loaned by the bankers out of fiat. You loan the bankers money, loan it back to you at interest. The first draft is relatively unconventional because the euro, bond, and banking union issues are currently all too sensitive to be committed to paper for officials. Other so-called non-papers are circulating at top secret level between the national capitals and Brussels. The difficult issues not included in the draft are PM items, Prime Minister, in the draft, other financial stability measures, and PEC report on EMU. Let me turn the page there. Yeah, just move it over to the right a little bit, because when it's cut off there on the edge, you can't really fully read that for people that are watching at prisonplanet.tv. Thank you. And then it just continues into the article, and I guess in the printout here, I didn't get the final page of that. Will you guys reprint this for me? Because I have an InfoWars version and their version, but not the actual article. Here you go. I'll just give it to you. Or if you just put it on screen, I could probably just read it off the screen. This is breaking right now here on air. If we can just put this back up where I can read it, I'll just read it off air. That's why I was having to say that, so I can actually just read this. I'll be able to do that right here. But the point is that they're announcing that banks are going to basically run everything, and that the government of Europe is just an unelected bureaucracy with ceremonial organizations that are in place there. The EU Parliament is just ceremonial. They just sit there. And again, we'll put that article. Can you guys put the Telegraph back up on screen for me? I don't need it reprinted. If we can just put it back on screen, that'll just be unbelievably awesome. There it is. And, okay, fine. Just scroll it up. I could probably read it still. And then it goes over the whole map. There's a map right there, how the banks are going to run it. And the Council of Europe that's unelected. And then, of course, they have the Parliament. But, again, they don't have any power. Countries can send their minions, but the unelected bureaucrats are exempt from their own taxes and their own laws. It's all right there in the Council of Europe. And it says in the documents that the big banks, I remember reading it this morning, basically will completely rule everything, and it's a banking union, a government of, for, and by the banks. And again, now The Economist magazine and others have openly bragged about this some. Translated from Brussels jargon, the PEC president of the European Council report will be Herman van Rompuy's preliminary text of the future of economic and monetary union. This will be circulated in sealed envelopes next week, because the slaves aren't allowed to see it, but it's been leaked. The separate text will be roadmap to banking union, polling debt via some kind of euro bonds, we knew this was coming, and political union via EU treaty over the next 10 years. So go into debt to bail out the bankers predominantly. The media tells you you're doing this because you're lazy and that the debt's yours. Then you create euro bonds to pay the bankers back interest because you bailed them out. That's how this works, if you can imagine that. It is unbelievably off the charts crazy. Now, continuing here with the news, Obama has announced executive privilege and says Congress, just like Nixon said, has no power to see the documents he said didn't exist. He's been caught lying about that, completely Nixonian. And the question is he above the law? He says he can kill U.S. citizens without a judge, jury, trial, or arrest. He says that our military is under UN command. He says he's God. And as much as I love to hate Obama, he's just a puppet. This is what the criminal interests that have merged with this global corporate empire want for this country. And they say, despite the fact Obama's declared executive privilege, they are going to still bring Holder before them and still going to have a contempt vote. So it's on now. This is the perfect time for Obama to start a new war or stage a terror attack and blame it on his political enemies. Here's Fox News. Isha pushes ahead with Holder contempt vote despite Obama intervention. Representative Darrell Issa said Wednesday that he is pressing ahead with a committee vote to hold Attorney General Eric Holder in contempt of Congress, despite an 11-hour move by President Obama to exert executive privilege over the fast and furious documents at the heart of the dispute. Will not produce the documents, and they can't believe that people would actually call them on something. Why don't they just say in the news, there's a hoax. ATF doesn't exist. Obama doesn't exist. Just like the drones. They just spent 6 months telling us they're going to run our lives with drones. Man, it was scary that the TSA was grubbing people, but they've said they don't do that, even though it's on thousands of videos. So I feel better now. They also say mercury isn't bad for you in the vaccines, delivered right into the bloodstream. So I guess everything's okay. And they also said that, Al-Qaeda is good now and can basically take over countries. They were bad, but now the media says they're the good guys in Syria and Libya. So I don't have to worry about Al-Qaeda anymore. And, like I said, they say they're not launching drones anymore. They'd said it over and over again, but I guess that was a mistake because they say now the drone stuff's kooky. I mean, if you're trendy and cool, you don't even recognize drones. In fact, if one flies over your house, you didn't see it because you're not a crazy person. You're a trendy, cool person that thinks everything's fine. Also, I want to apologize. When the Stuxnet came out last year, we came out and said it was Israel and the U.S. government launching it because we had IT experts on who'd identified and analyzed it. And we said it was used to shut down the Iranian nuclear program. Of course, here's the Washington Post now agreeing and saying we were right and breaking it because they say so. U.S.-Israel developed flame computer virus to slow Iranian nuclear efforts, and it's part of the Stuxnet. But again, I want to apologize that I was right and say I was wrong. Okay. Because the government says we should give our rights up on the web because of Stuxnet that they launched, just like they run Al-Qaeda, but we should give our rights up because Al-Qaeda, we need to be groped by TSA, but they're not groping us because they said so, because don't run, we are your friends. I mean, they're good people. They care about us. They ship guns into Mexico to help people get the evil guns confiscated here. Here's some good news. Monsanto faced with paying $7.5 billion back to farmers. That's a Prisonplanet.com article, and it links through to the different articles down in Latin America. Monsanto may soon be forced to pay as much as $7.5 billion back to farmers who say that megacorporation took their rightfully earned income and taxed their small businesses to financial shambles. Yeah, because the seeds don't produce new seeds. It all started with a monumental lawsuit launched by over 5 million farmers against Monsanto, looking to recover financial losses from ridiculous seed taxes that bankrupted many families down in Brazil. Back in April, a Brazilian court ruled that Monsanto absolutely was responsible for paying back the exorbitant amounts of cash back to farmers, ordering the company to issue back all the taxes collected since 2004, a minimum of $2 billion. Afterwards, Monsanto appealed the decision, and the case is now suspended until further hearing is instituted by the Justice Tribune, the local court stationed in Rio Grande do Sul. And it just goes on. You should read that full article. The value involved could total $15 billion of their currency equals $7.5 billion U.S. And it just goes on. I mean, Monsanto's got some really monopolistic practices. And, well, they're nice people, though. They did bring us Agent Orange, dioxin, and aspartame. They got aspartame approved. They bought the company Searle that had it. And they're just good people. They're good people. When their crops infect yours, they trespass, take your crop, find 1% of their genetics in it, and then have courts they own rule against you, and they're trespassing, and they take your property. And I think that's good because they're our friends. They said, don't run, we are your friends. I see their billboards up on the highway. It says they're friendly. It says they want to help us. It says they care about us. I mean, it must be true. These are good people. Very good people. I mean, look at how much they're helping Greece. Greece's ailing economy grinds to a halt. Turns out all that austerity stalled their economy further, so they can't pay back the debt. That was the plan. That's what the bankster gangsters do.